The trickster, Nagito, was brutally murdered. His unpredictable death has left a looming shadow of mystery in the hearts of Hajime and the others. Who is the traitor? What was the clue Nagito left? Will they be able to see the light within the darkness between hope and despair? Greetings everybody, Okami Games Online. Welcome back to more Danganronpa 2. Last time, we finished our investigation by investigating Nagito's cottage, and we learned a very peculiar detail. Apparently, the Byakuya we know here is not the same Byakuya that participated in the killing school life. The one that we knew was merely an imposter. And in general, just found some clues in Nagito's cottage, and where his repairs are going to be as usual. It's going to be a brutal one, but here we go. The 5th class trial for Nagito Komaeda, the ultimate lucky student.
Now then, let's begin with a simple explanation of the class trial. During the class trial, you will present your arguments for who the killer is and vote for who done it. If you vote correctly, then only the blackened will receive punishment. But if you pick the wrong person, I'll punish everyone besides the blackened, and that person will earn the right to leave this island. Oh my, Monami? My cute little sister? You're awfully quiet. What's happened to you? You've ascended the ladder of adulthood and reached the moon? Because you're a rabbit? Chesto! One more time! Jeez! How about this one? This will be my final blow! It's useless.
It's too early in the day for this Monokuma.
Please stop! I feel bad for Monomi.
You're right. Now's not the time for me to horse around with Monami. The class trial has started, after all. The victim this time is Nagito, who was attempting to reveal the traitor for everyone's sake. Who in the world killed him? I'm so curious.
If he was killed for trying to reveal the traitor, that traitor is obviously the killer. They were trying to shut Nagito up.
No, that might not be it.
Huh? Are you trying to protect the traitor? They didn't call out when we were in danger. Wait. Don't tell me you're the traitor.
Don't say something so stupid! There's no way in hell I'm the traitor!
Now that's more like it! Why don't you guys hurry and start arguing already?
The traitor and the killer who murdered Nagito is here, right? Are they the same person? Or...
The killer didn't take Nagito's mouth to shut him up. I'm telling you, they were torturing him.
The reason Nagito's body was covered with wounds.
It's because the killer tortured Nagito.
So that's why he was so beat up. What were they trying to find out by torturing him? Definitely the bomb's hiding place. If so, the suspect is whoever found the bomb first.
That was Fuyuhiko.
I found it by coincidence. There's no way I'd torture someone.
Why did the killer have to torture Nagito? No. Were the wounds on Nagito's body really caused by torture in the first place?
The killer didn't tape Nagito's mouth to shut him up. I'm telling you, they were torturing
The reason Nagito's body...
It's because the killer tortured Nagito.
No, that's wrong.
There was no blood under the duct tape where his mouth was.
But Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape, so he wouldn't have been able to confess anything.
That too.
If he was being tortured for information, they wouldn't have taped his mouth like that.
I'm prepared. I just realized it. It's a trap.
A trap?
Stupid Hajime. You got caught in that trap.
Stupid.
Like you said, if Nagito's mouth was taped shut, you'd obviously assume he couldn't talk, right? But that was the trap. They wanted to hide the fact that he got interrogated.
But if you tape his mouth shut, how is he supposed to answer anything?
Pay attention. This is how it went. First, the killer tortured Nagito and got information about the bomb's location. Then, after they killed him, they duct taped his mouth shut. Whew, that was close, you guys. Thanks to me, you guys didn't get caught in the trap.
You take Nagito's mouth after getting information from him. True, that sounds reasonable, but that clearly contradicts the truth. If he had listened to me until the very end, I wouldn't have to go to the trouble of repeating myself.
Pay attention. This is how it went down. First, the killer tortured and got information about the bomb's location. Then, after they killed him...
Allow me to cut through those words!
The duct tape was on there before they killed him, because of the blood, or lack
There's
thereof.
no doubt Nagito's mouth was covered with duct tape before he was beat up.
What did you say?
Who cares about the duct tape? We might as well settle this with rock, paper, scissors. We don't need to play a game. It's clear the duct tape was on his mouth before the torture even began.
Why do you always side with Hajime? You have a crush on him or something?
Are you in elementary school or something?
You were with us when I peeled the duct tape off Nagito's mouth, right? The blood on Nagito's face wasn't under the duct tape, remember?
The blood on his face came from his arm wounds. Which means the duct tape was on his face before his arms were even wounded.
And the duct tape had a lot of crinkles around his mouth. He must have been struggling to open his mouth under the duct tape.
Perhaps the duct tape was used so he wouldn't be able to scream. Then it's like I said at the beginning. The tape wasn't for torture. It was to keep his mouth shut.
However, if they wanted to seal his mouth, they did not need to hurt him with such ferocity.
They probably had a deep grudge against Nagito.
Then, are you saying the killer was trying to make him suffer?
If so, it's friggin' crazy. Did they go psycho or something?
No, they didn't just go crazy. Whoever did this must be one crafty bastard. If not, they wouldn't have taken the time to set fire to the crime scene and destroy all the evidence.
The warehouse fire was for destroying evidence?
You can't think of any other reason.
But who could have done that? When the fire occurred, everyone in this room was gathered in front of the warehouse.
Yeah. And right after I opened the warehouse door, the flames started burning from the very back.
Which means, it is plausible to think that nobody here set the fire.
The killer isn't one of us. But that's not the case, huh? I mean, it's wishful thinking.
Even if it was only a coincidence, the timing was just too perfect.
Based on the pattern up until now, we should suspect that some kind of setup was used for this.
Some kind of setup? Like what?
I do not know that, but that has been the pattern before.
That's our Miss Sonia. You have such an amazingly high intellect. Alrighty then. Let's think about this based on what Miss Sonia thinks. Is that okay, Miss Sonia?
Damn right it is!
The reason for the fire, huh? You're right. We need to clear that up first.
The direct cause of the fire was the oil lighter found at the crime scene, right?
The killer used some kind of setup. He lit the curtain on fire with the lighter.
Some kind of setup?
Did they use the oil as an improvised fuse?
They probably just threw the lighter.
Based on the shape of that oil lighter, it can stand upright while the flame is lit.
If they tipped over the lighter in some way, it could have ignited the curtain.
Some way?
Maybe they used invisible thread.
There should have been a way to tip it over with sound waves.
Or perhaps opening the door caused intense wind pressure to tip over the lighter.
Some kind of setup was used to start that fire. So what could it be?
The direct cause of the fire was the oil lighter found at the crime scene, right?
The killer used
Some kind of setup. He lit the curtain on fire. Some kind of setup? Did they use the oil as... They probably just threw it based on the shape of that. It can stand upright. If they tipped over the light, it could have ignited the... Some way? Maybe they used invisible... There should have been a way to tip...
tip it over with...
Or perhaps opening the door caused...
I agree with that.
All it took was opening the door because of how the Monokuma panels were lined up.
I also agree that opening the door is what started the fire.
Just as I thought, it was the wind pressure! A dust devil blown here from glorious Japan!
No, not wind pressure. They probably used the Monokuma panels. A huge number of tipped-over Monokuma panels were found at the crime scene, right? It looked like they were scattered everywhere, but some were laying on top of each other in a single line. Just a single line leading from the warehouse door to the fire's origin.
Does that mean anything?
The killer probably arranged those Monokuma panels to create a domino effect.
Domino effect. You mean those tiles kids play with by lining them up and tipping them over?
In place of those tiles, the killer used the Monokuma panels. So when we opened the warehouse door, the first panel toppled into the second. And from there, they fell like dominoes until they reached the lighter at the end.
And that ignited the curtain.
But wouldn't it be obvious that those big panels were falling over?
That's probably why they turned off the lights in the warehouse, so we wouldn't notice them.
So the reason the warehouse was dark was to hide the domino effect.
And one more thing. There was something else the killer did to hide the domino effect, right?
The killer did one other thing to hide the domino effect. They disrupted our ability to hear the domino effect with the MP3 player.
I see! You're talking about the MP3 player, right? That hymn blaring throughout the warehouse masked the sound of the falling panels.
The inside of the warehouse felt even darker because our eyes were still used to the bright sunlight outside. Within that darkness, a loud hymnal blared throughout the warehouse at full volume. Hey, do you guys hear something? Yeah, it's really damn loud. Does Naito like listening to this depressing crap? No, I'm not talking about the music. And as if on cue, it suddenly started.
That's it. So the strange sound was actually the sound of the panels falling.
But those sounds weren't the only strange thing, right? Looking back on it, it was also strange when we opened the door to the warehouse.
It's fine, I'll open it slowly. No, that's not the problem. Seriously, it'll be fine. Those words Akane brushed off everyone's warnings and slowly opened the door to the warehouse. Didn't open. That's not opening? Is there something blocking the door? I can barely open it. I knew it. It's a trap. Seriously, just stop it, okay? Didn't I tell you it would be fine? Just gotta use a little more force. What happened to opening it slowly? Kinda ignored the protests, and with a mighty kick, the door flew open.
Ah, so the door was being blocked by a Monokuma panel.
And when we opened the door, the domino effect started, and the falling panels eventually reached the lighter.
Yeah, and that's how the warehouse caught on fire. At least, that's how it looks.
You don't look so sure.
At the time, Akane mentioned that she could barely open the door.
Because the panel was blocking it, right?
With the blocked doorway, there wasn't enough space for a person to fit through, right?
Is that a problem?
It's a major problem. I mean, that door was the only entrance to the warehouse.
If that door was the only entrance to the warehouse... I see. So the problem Chiaki's talking about is... the killer would not have been able to leave the warehouse because of the setup.
I see! If the panel was so close to the door that it could barely be opened, the killer inside the warehouse wouldn't be able to leave, right?
Now that you mention it.
Does that mean they were hiding inside?
Who? We were all outside the warehouse, you know.
Based on the patterns up until now, I believe some kind of setup was used.
You don't have to think so hard. There's actually only one person who could have possibly done this.
Huh?
You don't mean...
But if that's true, this murder...
Hajime? What do you mean?
The person who set up the domino effect inside the warehouse. There's only one person who could have done that. Everyone was outside, but there was one person who was still inside the warehouse. And that person was the victim himself, Nagito Komaeda.
This is my answer! What if it was Nagito?
Why'd you bring him up? He's the victim, you know.
He wasn't just the victim. Maybe.
Huh?
Not just the victim? What does that mean?
He was the victim. And he was the perpetrator, too. Maybe.
Are you saying this was a suicide? Don't be stupid. His body was covered in torture wounds. Or did you already forget? Are you saying those were all self-inflicted?
But Nagito might do something like that, don't you think?
That's not the issue. He was tied up, remember? Even for a creep like Nagito, it'd be impossible for him to tie up his own arms and legs.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, as long as you understand.
It seems we need to discuss how Nagito was able to tie himself up.
Need to discuss? That's not necessary at all. No matter how much you think about it, it's clearly impossible.
Like he said, it seems impossible if you think about it, but I feel like I'm overlooking something.
To actually tie up your own arms and legs. That's obviously impossible!
Tying just the legs is one thing, but tying both arms would be impossible.
You couldn't do much with the free arm.
It'd be impossible if you were by yourself.
How about if you use your teeth? Or if you use your front tail?
Dirty joke! Is that a dirty joke?
If our assumption that Nagito committed suicide is correct, Nagito should have tied himself up too. That's okay, right?
To actually tie up your own arms and legs. No, that's wrong.
it wouldn't have been both his arms and legs. Well, he would have had a free arm.
Hold on a sec. Isn't that premise flawed?
What? I mean, it's no mistake that his arms and legs were...
No, it shouldn't have been both of his arms. The rope on his right arm was completely burnt up. Based on that, you can't say he was tied up.
That was just burned by the fire. He should have been tied up before then.
It burned because of the fire. Like you said, it might look like that. But that was part of the trap. There's concrete evidence that proves it.
Proof that the burnt rope on Nagito's right arm is a trap. His right sleeve should have been burned if it burned because of the fire, but it wasn't.
Take a close look at his right sleeve. Even though the rope was burnt up, his sleeve wasn't burned at all. Wouldn't you agree? A burn like this, no matter how you think about it, is unnatural. That rope was burned in advance so it would look like it was burned in the fire.
Then Nagito's right arm wasn't tied up, right? He was able to move it freely, right?
Yeah, that should be the case.
Hajime, that's awesome! I'll let you cop a feel if you want.
No thanks.
Akane, you should not give it away for free. Make sure they pay you first.
Well, now I'm definitely not interested.
That's definitely wrong.
Fine. I just gotta get a Benjamin from him before I let him touch me, right?
That's not what I meant. I'm talking about Nagito. I mean, even if his right hand wasn't tied up, the knife was still stabbed into it, you know?
It's impossible to stab a knife into your right hand with your right hand. Ah, that much is obvious.
Hajime, you tricked me! Give me back that Benjamin!
Not only did she try to charge me, now she wants the money back? What the heck?
Hold on. There should be a way.
Then hurry up and spill it.
If it's something lame, I'll make you give back the Benjamin with 10,000% interest.
A way to stab yourself in your right hand using only your right hand. It's okay. There's definitely an answer to this.
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with his right hand?
If he threw the knife into the air and let the knife fall, could he stab his hand that way?
Is he a throwing knife expert?
Maybe he propped the knife somehow? And slammed his right hand down on it?
Propped it onto what?
If he just propped the knife, he could have used his bound left hand.
If you're tied up, your arms won't bend that easily. We don't know if his left hand could even reach his right hand.
If Naito could only use his right hand to stab himself in the palm, then how did he do it?
Even if Nagito's right hand was free, how could he stab his right hand with his right hand?
If he threw the knife and let the knife, could he stab his hand that way?
Is he a throwing knife expert?
Maybe he propped the knife somehow?
I agree with that.
Use the life-size Monokuma plushie to prop up the knife.
The life-size Monokuma plushie. He must have used that to prop the knife.
Makes sense. That's why there was a big hole in the plushie's stomach. He inserted the knife handle into that hole to prop it up. Then he slammed his hand onto it. If that's it, he had to place the plushie near him. And it also explains the mysterious blood on the plushie.
So the blood on the plushie came from Nagito after he stabbed the knife into his own right hand.
I see. So that's the trick.
But for a moment, I seriously thought Monokuma died or something.
A bleeding plushie is super scary. It's got the same fear factor as a doll whose hair grows too long.
After stabbing his hand, he no longer needed the plushie, so he cast it off toward the fire's origin point.
He probably thought the fire would incinerate it and destroy the evidence.
So what do you think now, Fuyuhiko?
I get what you're saying about the wound on his right hand, but there's still one huge problem. The spear. Basically, you're saying Nagito committed suicide by impaling himself with a spear, right? If you think about the order, getting killed by the spear should have been the last thing to happen to Nagito. If that's true, how is that possible? He can't grab a spear with his right hand if a knife is stabbed into it and his left hand was all tied up.
Then he probably took the spear first, and as he endured the pain, he stabbed the knife into his right hand.
The spear would definitely been the fatal wound, though.
There is a limit to his constitution. If you got penetrated by something so big and thick, you would die instantly.
Alright, thanks for the heads up, Sonia.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
Like I said, if you got penetrated by something so big and thick, you would die instantly.
Say it one more time. I need to record it. For reasons.
Now is not the time, Kazuichi.
Hey, bastard, you better cut it out!
Like she said, in that condition, it's very difficult to stab yourself with a spear. It'd be hard to use a spear with a knife stab into your right hand while your left hand is tied up.
So you're saying it's impossible?
Danganronpa.